Most of us know that a mammal is an animal covered with hair that suckles its young. But did you ever stop to think that nature is an architect? Did you ever think that a mammal's skeleton is very much like this cantilever bridge with a steam shovel at one end? And here we see the skeleton of a horse, which is a walking bridge. And here we see a wild horse walking. And here we see a llama, which is a South American relative of a camel, walking. But when we think of a kangaroo, we realize that this is a bascule bridge that can rear up on its hind legs to allow a ship to pass by underneath. Most of this mammal activity, of course, is in search of food. And the opossum is a primitive animal because it has all kinds of teeth. Different types of teeth for cutting and for grinding. It has many types of food. See, it has premolars, molars, canines, and incisors. And note the complicated dental formula up here. On the other hand, a rabbit has a simple dental formula with only incisors and premolars and molars. There are no canines. It nips off the grass with the incisors and grinds them with the cheek teeth. And there are some baby rabbits. And of course the deer mouse is even simpler. It has just two pairs of incisors up front and just molars behind. And here is a little deer mouse, a little white-footed deer mouse, which is very common in the woodlands around Chicago. We don't see it because this is a nocturnal animal. It lives at night and sleeps by day. Notice the large ears and the long tail. Notice the pretty white underparts. The big eyes. Notice the tubercles on the feet of this little rodent. It has 4 toes on the front feet and 5 on the hind feet. This little mouse often lives in a bird's nest which has been abandoned for the winter and which it puts a roof on and puts an entrance in the side, a little entrance hole. And here is the meadow mouse, which is quite different. The wild mouse, too, has short tail and very short ears and very short legs. And here, of course, is the familiar chipmunk of the Chicago area. And here is one which a friend of mine kept in a bird cage as a pet. They're fine, engaging little pets. And they often fill up their cheek pouches with food that they can't eat right now and save it for after a while, or store in their burrows for the long winter. A near relative of the chipmunk of our Chicagoland area is the western chipmunk, which is much smaller. And this one usually runs round and round in that exercise wheel, but the photographer's lights bothered him and he wouldn't do it. Of course, most of us know the little picket pin, or 13-lined ground squirrel, or gopher, of the Chicago area much better even. This is a cute little animal, a very curious one, which we see in our backyards if we live in the suburbs. This one we photographed with binoculars so that we can get to see it really close up. And here we get a real close-up of one of these little striped ground squirrels in its burrow. close relative, of course. Here's the woodchuck, which also has incisor teeth for cutting off vegetation and cheek teeth for grinding them. It has no canines. And of course, this is a rodent too. This one seemed to have lost something. He ran round and round in a circle. Here is the skull of a squirrel. And there it is with the lower jaw on. And notice the grinding action. Note that the incisor teeth up front are for biting something off or chiseling something, and the cheek teeth are for grinding it up. There's a baby squirrel. And it's lots of fun to raise a baby squirrel. Only it takes lots of hand feeding with a medicine dropper of a baby's formula or milk. But they're interesting little rascals to watch as they grow up. After a time, the one we had refused to live in the fine box we put on the floor for it. This was no place for a growing squirrel. He insisted on finding the highest shelf in the back clothes closet and building himself a nest there and running along the clothes hooks just as nimbly as we would walk on a sidewalk. And there he is alongside of his cardboard box, which he filled up with paper, which he tore into bits. And here's a little wild squirrel. Wherever you see a squirrel, he's always gnawing away or chiseling away at something. That's what those incisor teeth are for. Two teeth front and two teeth above and below like Bugs Bunny. And here's the adult squirrel. And whenever they aren't eating, they're hiding some food for after a while. In the fall, these squirrels are always hiding. Hiding, hiding, always hiding. This is a gray squirrel, but here is a red squirrel. And here are a group of red squirrels at Trailside Museum that really use that exercise wheel. Somebody's always messing things up by wanting to go the other way. They have a lot of fun. Well, here's the skull of a carnivore, the skull of a skunk. And notice the incisor teeth up front and the scissor-like molar teeth behind for chewing big pieces of meat. And here are these little skunks, baby skunks, which have been descended. And this is really the proper way to hold a baby skunk, by the loose skin of the neck. It doesn't hurt them. And here is another carnivore, the least weasel, which has just killed a mouse in this cage. Killing the mouse excites him, so he immediately gets up and runs onto his exercise wheel. And here we get a chance to see what short little legs he has and what a very long body. These weasels are very vicious little animals. And once in a while, one will get it loose in a hen coop and kill many hens just for the sheer pleasure of killing, with no intention of eating them all. Now here is the skull of a cat, and notice the peculiar back teeth of the cat, which is also a scissors-like arrangement for chopping up big pieces of meat. Here, of course, is a lion, which you know is a big cat. And in the zoo, they don't have to hunt. They're given their meat. They get awfully lazy. There really isn't much to do anyway, except lay around and sleep. this is a lioness. Of course, the lion is the great cat of Africa. And it's not too much different from the great cat of India and Asia, which we know as the tiger. Besides the cats, we find among the carnivores the dogs. And here is a Cape hunting dog, a kind of hyena. And here is our familiar little red fox, which is also a wild dog. Did you know that bears are carnivores? They have similar skulls, except that the hind teeth are more useful for grinding than for cutting. This is a black bear or brown bear, but this, of course, is a polar bear. And this, of course, is a Himalayan bear, which has just reached outside of the cage to pick up a peanut. Very clever with his huge paw. This is a carnivore which you would hardly suspect of being one. This is a sea lion, which has flippers now in place of legs for swimming and has streamlined himself so that the ears are very small. The nose has valves for closing out the water. This is a South American river otter. Here we get into an entirely different group of animals, the ungulates, the great grazing animals, which have mostly large molar teeth and incisors for biting off grass and then chewing it up. This is the wild pig, or peccary. These are all ungulates, grazing animals. This American bison, or buffalo, is really ancestral to our modern cattle, to which we owe our dairy products and our beef. These ungulates often do not have upper incisors. Here is a deer, strictly a browsing animal, eating leaves and grass, which it bites off with the front teeth and then grinds with the molars. These animals generally do not have the canines. Notice the sideways movement of the jaws in this grinding process in which the molars are used. This, of course, is a giraffe. A beautiful, graceful antelope. Now, of course, you all know this animal. This is a hippopotamus, which has the largest mouth of any living mammal. And here he's opening it merely to eat himself a marshmallow at the zoo. The enormous mouth. Here we're looking right in it. You all know the elephant. This is an Indian elephant, which unfortunately does not have any tusks. It looks almost the same from the other side. This is a shrew. Notice that the shrew, which is just a couple of inches long, has a very complicated dentition. It's really carnivorous, but not a carnivore. There's a dead one which starved because it didn't get food for a couple of hours. It starved overnight. We found it in the morning in the forest. This animal is only a couple of inches long, a short-tailed shrew. It's closely related to the bat, which we see here has also a very complicated dentition for capturing the insects which it catches on the wing, out of the air. And notice the strange web which stretches between his fingers and is the bat's wing. Now, bats and shrews are closely related to the primates, or monkeys, which also have a complete dentition, as does man. But of course, man is an entirely different story, and we end this film with the monkeys. This is a pigtail monkey.